Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to our Mandalorian reviews and recaps every Friday here on the FilmSpeak channel. We break down the latest episodes of Season 2 of The Mandalorian, I guess this year, Season 3 next year, and so on and so forth. But today we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode number 4, Chapter 12, whatever you want to call it. I am, of course, your host, Griffin Schiller, and here at FilmSpeak, we like to say that the conversation continues after the credits. And of course, we'd love to have you be a part of that conversation. So consider subscribing to the channel for more insight, analysis, and interviews behind your favorite entertainment. And as you know, I don't do these Mandalorian recaps alone. I am joined by the always wonderful, always on point, Mr. Elliott from Movie Files. Elliott, how's it going?
What's up, man? Happy Mando Star Wars Friday to you, my friend. Excited to be here to talk about the Chapter 12, man. Carl Weathers comes in and, gives us a 1-2 punch in this direction style, man. So I'm excited to break it down with you.
Yeah, for sure. It's we were talking about this a little bit beforehand, but it's really cool seeing the these first-time directors get something like fairly substantial in The Mandalorian, and they're able to really excel in it. I mean, granted, like they have a really big safety net, but I feel like, I understand a little bit more about who Bryce Dallas Howard is as a director after seeing her episodes. Now, like with Carl Weathers, I got a little bit of his style in there too. It wasn't just like a cut formula, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, from everything I've gathered from behind the scenes, man, just like last week, there was an article that came out that I guess George Lucas was on set of last week's episode and kind of came up with the male character for one of the Mandalorians. So like this seems like it's a very collaborative type of environment and set, and it seems like, I mean, this just kind of that theme kind of goes across even Marvel movies with the Russo brothers having the second people from the John Wicks kind of do the action set piece. So it seems like these Star Wars, and particularly, again, I compare it to like baseball, where they have their minor leagues and they allow these directors to come in and give out their best things they can do, and then take that and propel them into more episodes to other Star Wars movies potentially. So it's a collaborative effort, man. And I really enjoy this kind of direction that we're getting from these first-time directors.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think, before we get into the episode at large, I think one of probably the biggest standout to me of this was Carl Weathers. So it was really good to just see, someone who's a veteran of the industry like that, just really, get into the craft behind the camera and excel so well. So like that to me is like, oh, that's great. That's exactly what you want to see with someone like that taking the reins. But into the episode at large, Elliott, what were your overall thoughts, and where does it sort of stand out for you among like some of the other episodes we've gotten this season?
So besides the action, which we'll talk about a little bit later, which I found to be very exhilarating, especially at 6 o'clock in the morning, where you're a little tired, you need something to kind of wake you up. So those action set pieces definitely did so. But in regards to just the narrative and the, the planting the seeds, as we talked about last week, and this, especially in this episode with, Dr. Pershing's alive, we have this, and we'll talk about this cloning potentially, and how that can, speak to the greater world of the universe in Star Wars, or potentially we've seen, this is maybe planting the seeds of how Palpatine was brought back, or how Snoke was brought back. So definitely some conversations there, and I think that kind of opens the door too for maybe how Ahsoka can play into the mix in regards to the child having a low M count. Well, you know, a Jedi out there that might have a higher M count, and that being Ahsoka. So I think that this, just like last week, this episode just kind of really opens the realm of possibilities for future episodes in this season, but also for future seasons in general. So as cohesively speaking, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, there are some moments where, there's a little bit of a lull here and there. We get, we talked about the character that we get from, Patty's character, and we get a return of a character from season 1 the comedy with some of those characters are a little bit uneven, but
it was
as a whole, I was entertained by this episode as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it, is entertaining. It is an entertaining episode. It is fun for all the issues that I have with it. I know people say it's filler, and it's filler if you're looking at it as we want to get to Ahsoka because that's where the story continues. But I will say it didn't feel like filler in the same way that episode 2 felt like filler. Episode 2 was just really a throwaway sort of thing. This was actually furthering the story, I think, and really giving us tidbits and planting the seeds for later. Actually, I'd say my biggest problem with this episode was that it felt like a bunch of setup and backdoor spinoffs, right? So it was setting up all these things that we're going to explore in different shows or whatever. Basically saying like, oh, Cara Dune is going to get her own spinoff here at the end, and I was like, that doesn't. I really don't care about that. Not just because the Gina Carano crap on Twitter, but just because it's a character that I don't really like. Like, what, you're going to sell a series on that side character from a show that she's barely in. So I for me, that just doesn't really do it. But yeah, on the whole, like you were mentioning with the tie-ins to the sequel trilogy with like the Emperor and Snoke, like obviously the way they're trying to resurrect him, which it's just really funny that we're at a point now where they're trying to retroactively fix that because they just knew it was awful. We're not even a year away from the release of that film, and they're like, okay, we got to kind of explain this. It's like we're getting, the fact that the Emperor was a clone in the novel version of this, and now they're literally going to explain that whole thing. But it's cool. But that was probably my favorite part, was like just learning those little bits of information. It's like they need the child, and now the child obviously serves more of a purpose than just being cute baby Yoda. They need the child in order to resurrect Palpatine. And so in those little tubes there, I think we're starting to discover that the Snokes or whatever, they're like the failed attempts at trying to bring him back is the way that I sort of interpreted it. I don't know. Is that how you got it?
Yeah, I mean, Pershing, he said that they were volunteers, which I don't know the volunteer nature of it all. We know there are some extremists in the planet and in the galaxy, but I think that definitely kind of opens up that possibility and kind of backtracking a little bit in regards to retconning or explaining things in the future. I mean, that is something that, we can always speculate. Was it a happy accident? Is it going back? Was it always planned from the beginning to kind of have this kind of planting the seeds for the greater universe of the Star Wars universe? Because again, Rise of Skywalker came out a week after we got one of the episodes where we saw the child using his force to kind of heal people, which we saw in the movie. So again, I don't know if it is a matter of connective tissues and like, hey guys, we made a mistake in our film franchise. Can we correct it in the TV show? But nonetheless, I think this does kind of open up that door with cloning. Who knows if that, we'll talk about Gideon at the end. Who knows if he's creating just his own cloned army versus Snoke or, Palpatine.
Yeah, that's the other thing, because at the end we get a really nice people who are fans of the EU and just like the stuff like that are going to be really excited about some of the stuff in here. But like at the end, I think we get a look at like the Dark Troopers, which was a huge thing in the EU, and like there's like different versions of them. Listen, I'm not an expert of it by any means or stretch of the imagination or whatever, but like, for me, some of the stuff that I saw and just like, being, somewhat familiar with the EU, I was like, oh, that's interesting that they're going that route. I think that is going to make a lot of longtime fans happy and continue to be, this show just, continuing the track record of being something that is for those like hardcore Star Wars fans without ever feeling like it's necessarily alienating other people. But I don't know. Those little like bits were just some of the like really cool moments to me.
Yeah, no, and again, we'll talk about it once we get to the end scene. And again, not being an expert myself in some of the extra lore of the Star Wars universe, but is it possible to have, I guess, force sensitive clone stormtroopers at any point in regards to just really advanced force sensitive clone troopers? Is that something? And again, we have Boba Fett somewhere out there. We'll see if he'll time to the mix, but is that something that's in the lore of Star Wars as far as like I said, stormtroopers that have force abilities?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not the expert on this sort of thing, but I think that's sort of that might be what they're trying to do with the Dark Troopers in order to like, again, kind of rise to power and whatnot. That's what I am really enjoying about this season, is that we are getting that look at how the First Order basically came about. How, when the Empire fell, they didn't all just go away and give up. They continued to try and reclaim power in the galaxy. And, with people like Moff Gideon, you're like, all that stuff. I don't know. It is really interesting to me. And
I mean,
obviously,
we don't
this is
even know
another
if
way
he's
of doing
force
that.
sensitive at all. That's something I'm excited to see explore that character. If does he has some force abilities at any point, or if he's trying to, create some force abilities and kind of manufacture it versus it kind of being born with it. So really
Yeah.
interested to see where they go with that.
Yeah, for sure. And again, this is just us just spitballing here. We're not by any means experts when it comes to Star Wars lore and whatever. So again, if you guys have other ideas or whatnot, let us know down in the comment section below. And then also just let us know your thoughts on tonight's episode down there as well. A lot sort of kind of went on. Anyways, but yeah, moving away from that, like the lore centric stuff. To me, it was a fun episode. Again, my biggest issue with it, aside from the backdoor spinoffs and all that stuff like that, where you could see the setup, was that it felt like basically a condensed version of the second and third act of A New Hope. Like basically the infiltration of the Death Star, the escape from the Death Star. Even Mando had his little Han Solo moment coming in when the TIE fighters were locked on. It was a lot of A New Hope references, and I was kind of like,
blast him.
I know. I was just like, you guys really can't help yourselves, can you? You can't construct something new. It just. Yeah.
I mean, that's the conversation we continuously have about, the Star Wars universe, trying to go back to the well, to relive that nostalgia and the things that we kind of grew up with. And I mean, hell, for the sake of Carl Weathers, he's a Star Wars fan, right? And this is kind of his homage to the Star Wars universe. And like you just mentioned, him, adding in his own flair to the New Hope. And again, we know that Jon Favreau loves, the Star Wars universe. So again, him adding in those little layers and kind of Easter eggs and stuff like that, it can be a bit overwhelming, again, for those of us that are been fans of this universe and the movies. But, it is kind of a nice, tilt to the hat of those older movies and kind of paying acknowledgement to it. But again, I know what you mean in regards to just like how many times can you dig your hand in the cookie jar to pull out these old references.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's just like it's the same stuff. Like they don't change it up. They're not like clever with it. I mean, like listen, it was well constructed for sure. But it's just like, okay, let's take the end of A New Hope and let's transpose it onto land, and there's not going to be a Death Star, and then we'll just sort of like go from there. And I was just like, I mean, yeah, it's fun, but like, and then Mando's like gone for a big majority of it, which is another reason why I'm like, I'm just like, okay, so they're clearly trying to get us attached to these characters because they want to set up like other stuff down the road. And I was just like, I don't know. That's not quite doing it for me. I don't really care about Cara Dune. She's just whatever. I mean, like,
she's a marshal now, man. She's got promoted to the marshal. She's protecting Navarro now, which again, Cara Dune is an interesting character. Again, we'll see what the future holds for her with spinoffs or whatnot. But as far as like tidbits that we got from her, we find out where she's from. Alderaan, and knowing that she's from the same planet as Princess Leia, and having that kind of small moment but intimate moment with the character that she had with Carson, in regards to her planet blowing up, losing everything, him potentially, as you just mentioned, spinoffs, her kind of being recruited to the New Republic. So, I mean, there are those little tidbits and with that character, but she's not my favorite character, but she's also someone that I'm open to becoming a big fan of. But so far, she's just, used for the action set pieces and really not giving us much of a character development besides a little tidbit at the end of the episode.
Yeah, for sure. But even that, I was like, okay, we're getting like info about her, stuff that we're learning, stuff that we didn't know, such as where she was from. But it's being told to us like a character bio, like this New Republic pilot is just basically just like spewing it at us, and she's just like kind of looking at him, side eyeing and stuff. And I'm just sort of like, you could have done that in a more natural way,
for sure.
Like it just, again, it comes down to the fact that a lot of these character interactions, whenever there's dialogue, it feels like I'm like watching a cutscene of a video game or talking to an NPC. It's
when you said that last week, when I watched the episode this morning, I'm like, yeah, Griffin does have a bit of a point in regards to how they deliver the dialogue and how it's approached versus being some nuanced way of doing it, but. Again, I think as we kind of discussed, they are so action heavy in regards to focusing more on that versus the dialogue not being as punched up as we might have hoped it to be. So
for real, and that's like the biggest thing is like the dialogue and the interactions either comes off stiff or it just comes off like you're over explaining something to me. It's very like, I think I used this term last week, but it's very primitive, and I just don't.
Yeah.
You know, like,
no, I hear you.
We can do better here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it goes into the, I mean, you know, with Star Wars, just thinking of it as a franchise and as a whole, you know, we really don't get the, you know, the Shakespearean moments of great dialogue here and there. There are obviously quotable moments throughout the universe and throughout the different parts of Star Wars, but there are those moments where you just get, like you just mentioned, just exposition dump. We got to get, you know, what have you been up to? Well, let me tell you in a couple sentences here. But again, hopefully, as you know, this is the first half of the season. We're entering the second half into, you know, once episode 5 hits, or as I say, chapter 13. Hopefully, the dialogue is more punched up. We get Ahsoka. We get these characters that have a little bit more of, you know, maybe some more dialogue to give us in a more natural, organic way. But I definitely know what you mean in regards to some of the dialogue being on the weaker side of the shows.
Yeah. And I think next week we're going to get a really good episode because as we've been sort of, you know, assuming we're going to finally meet Ahsoka. It's probably going to be an hour long. If not, maybe a little bit longer. I mean, it should be an hour long. This is what everyone's waiting for.
Yeah,
so
big character. And I mean, if Wikipedia is to be trusted, as it always is, Dave Filoni is listed as the director next week, and I believe the title's been announced as "I'm a Jedi" or something like that. So if bets are to be had, I think it's safe to say that Ahsoka will be making her first live action appearance, and Dave Filoni is going to be directing it, and hopefully it will be an hour or so episode. That would be nice.
Here's the thing: I am really excited for next week, but I'm really nervous with Dave Filoni directing. His episodes in season 1 were the weakest by a long shot. It really just reeked of first time director in a live action medium. He's the story guy. I trust him like, you know, so much with Star Wars. Him and Jon Favreau,
George Lucas. Yeah, he's
absolutely.
Yeah.
But when he gets behind the camera in a live action setting, I do get a little nervous, but that, you know, anyways, but that's for next week, and we'll have to see how that sort of, you know, plays out and stuff like that. But yeah, no, this one, I mean, it was fine, you know.
What I was curious, because we talked about it briefly last week with the lack of force use from the child. What did you think
that was
how usage first off with him, you know, being the mechanic of fixing the Razor Crest, but then also seeing him using the force to get some macaroons. He doesn't want to use it to save himself or Mando, but when he's hungry, he's going to use the force. Man, I just what your thoughts on the child this week?
The child was good. I mean, they used him. He had some great moments for sure, like the throwing up in the Razor Crest and all that stuff. The second that I saw him like trying to use the Force to get the macaroons, I was like, oh man. Elliott called it last week. He's like, we haven't seen Force use from the child, and so
here it is.
Yeah, I like how he's using the Force to grab macaroons, but he's not going to use it to kill spiders and stuff. You know, it's
you got to use it in the best positions, Griffin. You can't just use it to save your lives. You got to feed yourself, man, and no better use of the Force than feeding yourself. So yeah,
right. That was kind of cool. There were actually those moments when they were kind of surveying the town.
Yeah,
kind of reminded me of like prequel stuff, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's like, because we never see like a world functioning like this, and in any point in time after the prequels. Like the prequels is very much populated civilization, and then the downfall, and it makes sense why you wouldn't see that in like the original trilogy,
right?
But even like the sequel trilogy, there really wasn't like that sense of a thriving community or whatnot. And so in this, you know, we see like, you know, the good work that they had done in freeing this town, and like, or really in Cara Dune, like, you know, cleaning up the town and stuff like that. It was cool to just kind of like see it like living, you know, and going into the classroom. It was like that was kind of funny.
No, I totally agree, man. That's a good example of kind of world building, like you just said, kind of showing Navarro they're prospering. They have a school. Everyone seems to be happy, safe. It's a functioning town, which is a good, again, going back to just connective tissues to the first season. We met this town in the first season. Now we get to see where they're at now. So nice kind of way of connecting season 1 and 2, which I appreciate those kind of connective tissues to a certain extent. So it was nice to see them, living a good life.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was it was great. That stuff was all great. My biggest issue with that is just again, the show sort of every episode sort of follows this formula, right? Like it's it's exposition, mission, action, leave, and then repeat. And like this one definitely felt like that was like it was just ticking the boxes of that sort of thing. Which is why I understand that, like, people were saying, oh, it's just another filler episode, which, yeah, I get it. But I just kind of want to, I just wanted to break out of that mold, man. Like, this is my issue with the show is that it doesn't know whether it wants to be episodic or it wants to be, long form narrative, because it's trying to do both and it's not doing either really well per se. Like each episode is a really fun singular adventure, whatever you take it, like there's a lot of merit to it and stuff like that, but like it doesn't like it doesn't necessarily know like what kind of show it wants to be, which is just, and I'm sure there's like so many people out there who will disagree with me on that because you love it, and like, listen, I'm really happy for you. I'm glad that it's like your favorite show ever. That's awesome. I just, that's the big hurdle that I haven't been able to get over because I just don't see a consistency across the board.
Yeah, no, it is a very unique take on long form television, as we might get used to seeing one director, one voice, one kind of narrative that pushes from the beginning to the end. But in this case, again, we have 9 different directors. It's a quote unquote a 9-hour film, but broken up into little pieces, and it does sometimes come off a little bit, like you said, a little bit of a roller coaster of not the same thing, but then every other episode, like you just mentioned, we arrive on a planet, the planet needs help, Mando's going to help them out, and then we're going to just continue on. So hopefully, again, meeting a character like Ahsoka, I hope there's no mission next week, right? Like she's like, well, if you want me to train the child, I need you to do the XYZ or whatever the case may be.
That's
I hope
gonna
it's
be
like more of a narrative speaking, like what she's been up to, will she help out the child? Will, all this different, will she train him, things like that. I hope it's more of like you said, dialogue heavy action, obviously, but also just taken away from that mission of the week, savior of the week, and just kind of tell a little bit of a better story. So, we'll see what we get.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's what I am, I'm hopeful for next week. I mean, again, if they decide to do something like that, I wouldn't be surprised because that's the way, this is the way of the show. And, whatever, but I do hope they take that extra time to just really dig deep into the narrative, because that's their time to do it. With Ahsoka and like the child and the stuff with the Jedi, and it's like I have no doubt that that's eventually going to come to a head with like Moff Gideon, and then obviously we have Bo-Katan, who's going to probably come back in there because she's got some qualms with Moff Gideon as well, and stuff, but I really hope we hold off on some of that stuff so we can get a really good story episode next week. Yeah. And as Kieran Langer says in the chat here, there's a lot of weight hindering on next week's episode, but I'm excited nonetheless. And I agree. I agree for sure. So there's a lot to look forward to, but yeah. Any final thoughts on this week's episode before we close this thing out?
Yeah, no, we kind of touched on the big things with the cloning and the action in the episode. I think the other thing, I guess, was just the armstress, the armor, Mandalorian. She's no longer in her lore, in her lair, I should say. So, like, I would assume she's going to play a pivotal part in this season because of her connection to to Mando. So it'll be curious to see when we catch up to her and what she's been up to and where her new lair is and things of that nature. So I guess that's a character to kind of catch up with. But no, besides, everything else we highlight, I think, like we just pointed out, Next week is a big episode, man. It's the first time seeing Ahsoka in live action, so there's pressure there. There's again Dave Filoni bringing in his, the thing that he created to this live action format. So a lot of pressure to say the least. But I have a feeling with this being his third episode, having the help of Jon Favreau, having the help of the Star Wars universe, kind of being backing him, and just the momentum of the last few weeks episodes. I'm hoping for the best, man. I hope that next week's episode is one of, if not the best episode of Mandalorian so far. And again, a lot of pressure.
Yeah, there is a lot of pressure.
Filoni does next week,
yeah. I'm very, very excited to see what happens next week. Yeah, for me, this was a good episode. It was fun. I think it was just really, if I had to pick an episode that really ticked all the boxes of what like The Mandalorian does, it would probably be this one. I would take, this is the episode that ticks all the boxes of what it does. Episode 1 of this season is everything I want The Mandalorian to sort of just be, like that really hardcore Western type of thing. But like the other thing about it was just like I really enjoyed the lore exploration here, like opening up, getting us new looks at whatnot. We obviously get to see Moff Gideon for the first time and what he's up to with the Dark Troopers and stuff. There's a lot of just like cool tidbits here that I think are going to play into the story. Wasn't crazy about like the backdoor spinoff type of thing. I mean, even like Cara Dune like showing up at the beginning and then like her killing the guys and then cutting to the Mandalorian. It's like, okay, so you're trying to really set this up as like her spinoff down the road or something like that.
Positioning her to be either a bigger force within this show, or like you just mentioned, a spinoff her own. Just seeing how the audience, if they're receptive enough to have, want that character to continue on with her own show. But we'll see, man.
Right. I mean, Gina Carano maybe had dug her own grave on that one.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see on that. Maybe they'll have to put her on her helmet so they don't have to recast the character if they want to send her off.
Yeah.
But we'll see, man. And there was a question too. I saw, I think his name was Eric, mentioned something about Boba Fett. Do we expect him to come back up anytime soon? Is that something, again, backdoor pilot wise? How do you think he's going to factor into the story?
I think that was another instance of like a backdoor pilot, because they're already filming a Boba Fett show for whatever reason, even though this is the Boba Fett show that they wanted for, anyways. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see him again this season. I think that was a little acknowledgement that like he's still alive.
Yeah,
they're gonna do another show about him, and then you'll get all your info there. I hope maybe he makes some sort of appearance, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised.
Wouldn't put it past him if he doesn't. Yeah. That'll be it, which kind of brings me just thinking of, going back to next week and hopefully being the greatest episode of Mandalorian. But is it possible that they give us the ultimate tease and we don't see Ahsoka to literally the last minute of the episode, where it's, again, he goes to the
I swear to God, man.
He has to help out these local people. They're like, well, if you help us take out this Imperial base, we'll tell you where Ahsoka is. And he does his mission, and then he goes to Ahsoka, and it's a Last Jedi moment with Luke Skywalker, and we just see her at the very end, like next week on The Mandalorian. So, is there a possibility that Dave Filoni gives us the ultimate tease?
No way. No.
She's gonna be the first minute. We're gonna see her face.
Yeah. No. It's all gonna be in there. Like we don't have to worry. I don't think we'll be fine for sure. Biggest takeaway though from this one, Carl Weathers is a great director. You should bring him back for another, episode, action-centric episode like this. There was actually, there's another thing I forgot to bring up. There's a lot of great moments between Mando and the child, and I loved like seeing him have to drop off the kid at school.
Cool. Like the parent doesn't want to leave. That's what I love that.
I think there's we got some moments of that in episode 2, and obviously episode 3 we're seeing a little bit more. And it's like with each episode we're seeing the bond between those two grow. And so I think it's going to make it harder when eventually he has to say goodbye and train and like leave Baby Yoda to be trained by Ahsoka or whatever.
That is the biggest question, man. Do we see the Mando that has built this fathership with the child? Will he give up the child? If it is a matter of like giving it up to Ahsoka, is he going to actually leave the child with, or is he going to just like, no, I'm not going to, do the mission I was given? I wonder, is that something, a great story piece to kind of look forward to in the future episodes? Because I don't think he's going to give him up to easy, man.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen over the course of one episode, but it might be like a a thing, just sort of like I'm sure they will be with Ahsoka for probably
One or
the rest of the
two,
season
yeah,
or something
whatever.
like
Yeah,
that. I mean,
you would think.
yeah, I don't know how many episodes she's going to be there.
Yeah.
And whatever. And I'm sure she'll probably be, the classic reluctant mentor kind of
Because
thing.
we've never got a character like besides Mando, we've never gotten an episode where we get the continuation of like a new introduction of at least that I remember. I don't even remember if Cara Dune like appear like back-to-back episodes or if we got a character
back to back. No.
Yeah, so I don't know if we can expect, her to cross over from episode 5 or chapter 12 or 13 or 14. And if it is a matter of here's next week's episode, he's going to leave the child with Ahsoka, and as he's leaving, we're going to see Gillian and all his troopers coming on the her wherever she's at isolated. So that that's how we're going to wrap up next week. We'll see.
Yeah. Again, as you can see, we are very excited for next week. There's a lot riding on it. This was a nice little appetizer to tide us over, but we'll see what happens. The last thing I'll say was in regards to this is just I think there were a couple of interesting editing choices. Like, I understand Star Wars uses the wipes, but I thought that there was a lot of wipes back to back, which again, if these episodes were longer, they'd be able to integrate them in a way that didn't feel like, why are we doing this choppy editing and all that stuff. And then the other thing is did you notice the extra, the guy in the back with the jeans? That's, oh my God. And people complained about the Game of Thrones coffee cup. That's worse. Because it's a person on set. It's like someone who's actually working there. It is freaking jeans watch.
They're cloning people, okay, that wear jeans in the Star Wars universe. That was a clone that just happened to be in the back, Griffin. That wasn't an extra. That wasn't a sound boom mic guy. That was one of the clones out of the tank early, guys. That's the excuse. I don't know how that happens, man. It's like you would think of these high production shows that they wouldn't have a guy in jeans and Star Wars jeans. I guess it's the first pair of jeans.
Yeah, this is
Star Wars universe.
there was the meme going around last night. It was like, oh, is this the first pair of space jeans? And I saw someone who was like, well, didn't Han Solo have space jeans? And then someone responded like, it's a little. Those are more chinos than jeans. And I was like, this is, I love it. I love that this is the talking point.
How that gets missed, man, it baffles me. But this is the way, man. We're gonna see Mando. Mando's gonna be rocking those jeans next week. That's gonna be in the stores this Christmas season, and those Star Wars jeans. And I'm gonna pick them up.
The Mando jeans. That's what I want to see. Oh, that guy. I hope whoever that is, he just like comes out. He's like, hey, it was me. I'm sorry. Listen,
dude, it's probably George Lucas. If we're being honest, it's probably George on the set. Hey, Mandalorians. Yeah, that was George Lucas on the set, guys. He made his cameo.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's for sure. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this week's recap and review. Thank you for joining us live, or if you catch us on the replay, thanks for listening to all of our nonsense. Again, be sure to let us know your thoughts and opinions on today's episode down in the comment section below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are the theories you got for next week? What is Moff Gideon's plan? Is Snoke in this? Am I just completely misreading things? Let us know in the comment section below. Elliott, thank you as always for joining me on these. Where can everyone find you?
Hey, man, these are always fun every week, man. I look forward to this. But yeah, man, you guys can find me here on YouTube talking about shows like this, movies, and all that fun stuff. So check me out at Movie Files, and then on Instagram at Movie Files, and Twitter at Movie Files Live. You guys have a great, safe weekend.
Yes, please do. And give the man a follow, because, let's be real. You're probably following him already, so it doesn't matter. If you haven't done so already, guys, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the FilmSpeak channel so you don't miss out on the rest of our Mandalorian recap and reviews, and then also the rest of our film-centric content. I do have 2 really exciting videos coming up within the next week or so. I got one on Quantum of Solace, and I got one coming up on Pixar's Soul. It's going to be really good. Some deep dives coming your way, so definitely going to want to stay tuned for that. You can also like FilmSpeak on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, just search FilmSpeak, and if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Greef Schiller. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. Take care.